If you decided to click on this video, most likely you have never built a PC before and you just want to get started on PC gaming. I admit getting into PCs can be a bit overwhelming at first, but if you look into it, it really isn't. And I promise you that once you get started with PC gaming, you will never be able to stop it. Today, I would like to talk about getting a PC. Of course, to play games on PC, you first need a PC. Being a freshman to PCs about a year ago, my biggest concern before buying the components was to choose what parts I am going to buy. Back then, I just didn't know about any of the parts. Seriously, I just thought graphics cards looked like SD cards. No joke. Also, the number of options I had were just so overwhelming. First, I had to decide whether I'm going to buy an Intel or AMD CPU. Then, I had to go through all the products they had.
Core i3, i5, i7, i5 6400, i5 6500, 6600K, i7 6700, i7 6700K,
and even more. Nowadays, AMD has given us more options with their Ryzen release. After all that, I had to choose my motherboard. H110, B150, Z170, Z270, wow, these are confusing now that I think of it. Then there's the problem of choosing your RAM. 8GB, 16GB, 2133 MHz, 2400 MHz, and we're not even done yet. We still have the graphics card, storage, case, monitor. Jeez, I wonder how I got through all that. Now, this might be really confusing for you, but trust me, it's not that confusing. At the end of the day, you will be glad to have so many options in your hands. Now, on to the real question. How do I choose my PC parts? The first thing you have to think about is the general purpose your PC is gonna serve. If you just need a PC for basic tasks like web browsing, checking your emails, watching videos, or doing homework, you really won't need an expensive setup. To be honest, in those cases, I would recommend buying a laptop that costs around a few $100s. However, if you want your PC to serve more purposes, you will have to take things up a notch. For instance, if you want to play games, you won't be able to get away with the cheap laptop you bought from Best Buy. Instead, you have to look at what kinds of games you are willing to play. If you want to play esports titles like CSGO, Overwatch, Dota 2, and League of Legends, you really won't have to spend a lot of money on it. However, if you want to play more demanding AAA titles, you should be expecting to spend some money. Now that you have decided what kind of purpose your PC is going to serve, you have to decide the budget. As I mentioned before, for basic tasks, up to $300 will do you just fine if you're looking for a desktop. For a laptop, you would be looking at $400 to $500. For esports titles, you would be looking at $300 to $500 at most. $500 is actually more than enough to build a PC for that purpose. As for demanding AAA titles, you will be looking at $500 or up. Now, I'm not saying that a PC intended for basic purposes won't be able to play esports titles. Also, a PC intended for esports title will still be able to play some demanding titles. This is just a recommendation, it's not a restriction. Just bear that in mind. Our next and final step is the hardest part of all, choosing your component. This part is so hard, it will make you want to quit PC gaming. No, I'm just joking. Since you have already decided your budget and the purpose of your PC, it will really help to narrow down your choices. We'll go through it step by step. First, let's start with the CPU. For most PCs that are intended for basic purposes, aka basic PC, yeah, I just made that up, Intel Pentiums or even Celeron series will serve you just fine. I would recommend going for the cheap Pentiums because they serve more value than the Celeron series. For our esports PC, I'm getting better at naming these PCs, Pentium G4560 or the Pentium G4600 is the way to go. It's a fantastic CPU that holds a great value. Not only esports titles, it'll be able to hold up to most of the AAA titles as well. Speaking of AAA, for our AAA PC, starting from Pentium to i7 or Ryzen are all viable options. If you're looking for a low-end AAA PC, Pentium is still a great choice. I really wouldn't recommend the i3 lineup as it doesn't make a lot of sense. A Pentium G4560 will give you a similar performance for such a low price. If you're looking for a mid-range PC, Core i5 or Ryzen 5 is the way to go. Personally, I would recommend the Ryzen 5 because it holds such great value compared to the Core i5 lineup. For high-end CPUs, Core i7 or the Ryzen 7 are your options. Even here, I would give the Ryzen 7 a win for its great bang for the buck. Don't even get me started on the whole X299 and the Core i9 lineup. I really would not recommend this lineup since it does not have any pros over the Ryzen 7 lineup. Next is the CPU cooler. Now, if you're looking for a basic PC or the esports PC, the Intel stock cooler is going to serve you just fine. However, some AAA PCs will require some cooling, especially if you're willing to buy the high-end CPUs. For most CPUs, Cooler Master's Hybrid 212 Evo, I believe, is the best option. If you're looking to overclock your high-end CPUs, you might want to get an AIO liquid cooler to get that sweet overclock. There are tons of options for AIOs in the market right now. I believe Deepcool's Captain 240EX is a pretty good cooler due to its great price point. Now onto the motherboards. Your motherboard choice will be very dependent on your CPU choice since you have to get the motherboard that fits your CPU. If you went with the blue team, motherboards with LGA 1151 socket are what you should get. For the red team, you will have to get an AM4 motherboard. If you figured out what socket you're going to use, you now have to choose your chipset. For the blue team, we have H110, B150, B250, Z170, and Z270, and also X99 chipsets. Let's just forget the X299 for now. I know you're scared by these random numbers and letters. Let me explain. H110 chipsets are the low-end chipsets. Basically, these are for the basic PCs. Pun not intended. In most cases, H110 chipset will be found on smaller form factors such as Micro ATX or Mini ITX. B150 and B250 are the mid-range chipsets. If you're planning to buy one of the Core i5 lineup, this is a great sweet spot. Lastly, Z170 and Z270 have a big difference compared to the other chipsets. They are capable of overclocking an unlocked K-series CPUs. So if you're buying unlocked CPUs, this is what you should buy. For our red team, we have A350, B350, and X370 chipsets. A350 is equivalent to the H110 chipset. It is targeted for the low-end buyers. However, this motherboard is not capable of overclocking, which is crucial since all Ryzen CPUs are unlocked for overclocking. B350, I believe, is the sweet spot for mid-range buyers since they are capable of overclocking. Lastly, X370 is not much different from the B350 except the extra features that are added. Now it's time for the memory. Since there are too many options for memories, I wouldn't be listing all that. It would take me forever and this video wouldn't end. But there are a few things that you have to keep in mind. First, make sure you're buying a DDR4 memory. The previous generation, DDR3, or any other generations will not be compatible with the motherboards I previously mentioned. Second, they'll come in various sizes. If you're going for the basic PC, 4GB is enough. Esports PC will most likely need 8GB or 16GB if you really want. For the AAA PC, 8GB or up is the recommendation. Lastly, they will also come in various speeds. Before deciding how fast your memory is going to be, you will have to check if your motherboard will support that speed. Different motherboards support different memory speeds. You will have to choose your memory speed accordingly. The storage will heavily depend on what you need. If you need a lot of storage, I recommend buying a hard drive since they are cheaper than SSDs. If you want faster storage though, you should be getting an SSD. You can also buy them both and use them together. It's finally time for our graphics card. One of the most important component in a PC alongside the CPU. You will have to choose your graphics card strictly based on your purpose of your PC is going to serve. For the basic PC, you might not even need a dedicated graphics card. You will still be able to do most of your tasks through the integrated GPU. The esports PC is a different story. To run esports games comfortably, you will most likely need a dedicated graphics card. Your options are GT 1030, GTX 1050, 1050 Ti, RX 460, 550, and 560. All of these cards are capable of running esports titles, but at different frame rates. Choose your card accordingly to your budget. For our AAA PC, starting from RX 470 all the way up to GTX 1080 Ti are all your options. The best way to choose your graphics card is to look at what games you play the most and checking what graphics cards are capable of running that game. Wow, you have all these parts, but you're missing something. Everything would be useless without the power supply. Before buying a power supply, you would have to see how much electricity your PC will eat up. For this, I recommend using PCPartPicker.com. After you have listed all of your components, it'll give you an estimate of the total power consumption. After knowing the total power consumption of your PC, you just have to buy the power supply that'll be able to power your PC. Warning, do not cheap out on the power supplies. Stick to major brands such as EVGA, Corsair, Cooler Master, Be Quiet, Rosewell, Thermaltake, etc. Cheap power supplies are not safe and it will most likely not be able to provide the wattage they advertise for. So I strongly recommend you do some research on whether the power supply you're about to buy is safe. Now, the final piece of the whole PC, the case. You won't have to worry too much about the case other than its size. You have to make sure if your motherboard will fit in the case. If you have an ATX motherboard, don't buy micro ATX or ITX cases. It's not going to fit in there. Other than that, you just buy whatever you want. And that's it. You can now buy all the parts you want and get to building. If you're not sure how to build one, I have a perfect guide on how to build a PC. You can go to my channel and check out that video. If you have found this video helpful, please give it a like. For more content like this, please subscribe, and as always, have a great day.